Welcome to the Millstone Report. Thanks so much for being with us. Today on the program, we're going to talk about James Comey. He was arraigned today. He pled not guilty today, but there was no perp walk or no James Comey in front of the courthouse steps. No, he was just allowed to slink in and slink out using a side door or a back door. So we're going to talk a little bit about equal justice. What does it actually look like? We're going to revisit the arrest of Roger Stone, which, CNN was very happy to be there, right as the FBI told them to be there. Also, the arrest of Peter Navarro, Steve Bannon, and the rest of them. Also, do you remember, this was several weeks ago, we're also going to talk about that viral video of the man pulling up in his suburb. You remember this? The guy pulled up in his suburb, and there was a giant Indian festival going on. I don't know if it was Diwali or what, but, it was just covered up with Indians. And one of the guys, the guy that shot the video said, man, we've got to do something about the H-1B visa program. I want my kids to grow up in America, not India. It went viral. Would you believe it or not, his church, that man's church, put him under church discipline for expressing that opinion. And the Blaze chronicles all of it. We're going to talk about that as well today. All of that coming up on the Millstone Report and more. I got a lot to say. Millstone Report starts now. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for being with us again. I want to remind everybody we can't do the program without you watching every single day, so we do appreciate it. This portion of the program brought to you by Red Vive Health, 844-RED-VIVE or redvivehealth.org/Paul. I'll tell you more later on about the healing power of red light today. So, first off, let's just start with some context today about this Jim Comey situation. So I went and I pulled a clip from CNN, of all people. CNN, this was 6 years ago when Roger Stone was arrested, and I want you to listen to the inescapable glee and joy of the anchors at CNN. They really thought they had something here.
This is exclusive CNN video. This is what happened this morning before sunrise, just before 6 a.m., when Roger Stone, longtime Trump associate and advisor, was taken into custody by the FBI. There's a moment of audio on here that I want to play for everyone, because this is what the first sounds that Roger Stone woke up to this morning was the FBI pounding on his door and shouting this. I want to just play this for a moment.
FBI, open the door.
And you point out that when the second time when they say FBI warrant, you'd like to know if that meant search warrant or arrest warrant.
So we all remember this. And this was all considered fully justified by the media because essentially the government that was in charge at that time believed that if you were a Trump supporter or if you were a MAGA person, that you were most likely a terrorist, and you were going to be treated as such. And so now we've got new people in charge that we're told know the mandate, deep state arrests, but we find out, according to reports, which we'll get to, in a minute, some people in the FBI didn't want to perp walk Comey. They said no. FBI is saying no, that's all noise, that's all media lies. Well, whatever. I don't really care. I don't really care what they have to say. I'm just pointing out this clearly unequal treatment. And I think it's absolutely insane. And again, it's only going to, and it really, it shows you the double standard for sure. But again, stuff like this only is going to embolden them further when they get back in power. Here's Roger Stone. This is how he responded to this yesterday, or what is today? 3 days ago. So this is on the 5th. He says, When I was arrested in the Russian collusion frame job, the FBI seized my cell phone, my laptop, and both my computers. And when they returned my cell phone, they had mirrored it, making it useless during my legal defense. When they returned the computers, 3 years later, both hard drives had been completely destroyed, Hillary Clinton style. James Comey's electrical devices have not been seized. And you can just see here from Roger Stone's cameras, and we saw that with the CNN. Also, Roger Stone reminded us, CNN having a camera crew at my home at 6 a.m. to capture my arrest was not the result of investigative journalism. I was arrested at 6:06 a.m., and at 6:11 a.m., Sarah Murray of CNN texted a copy of my sealed criminal indictment to my lawyer. The document had no timestamp or court markings on it, but the metadata tags revealed the name of the man who wrote it, and therefore the man who illegally leaked it, swarmy little creep Andrew Weissman. There he is. Then you can go and you can relive what happened to Peter Navarro. Peter Navarro even got an Obama-appointed judge to agree that his arrest at the Reagan International Airport was excessive and didn't make any sense. They tried to put leg shackles on this man. They humiliated him. They put him in a basement jail cell and left him there for a long time. Let's just read a little bit of this. This was back on July of 2022, July 15th, 2022, by Joel Pollack. U.S. District Court Judge Amit Mehta agreed Friday with defendant Peter Navarro, a former economic advisor to President Trump, that his abrupt arrest by the FBI at Reagan National Airport last month for contempt of Congress was bizarre. As Breitbart News reported in June, Navarro was not provided an opportunity to turn himself in, but was treated as a flight risk and arrested at the airport. Navarro spent hours in custody and in court, having at it. In the words of Fox News anchor Neil Cavuto, he confirmed that he had been arrested while boarding a domestic flight. Outside the courthouse, he told reporters that he had offered the FBI a modus vivendi of cooperation last week, but that they had arrested him at the airport instead of they arrested him in a Stalinist Russia or the Chinese Communist Party manner. He described his treatment by the FBI as terrorism and coercion and as a form of punishment and intimidation. Anyway, this is what Peter Navarro went through. But that's not what happens to James Comey.
Breaking news. They slipped Comey in through another entrance so he didn't have to come through here. This is bullshit. I don't know who at DOJ and who at the FBI, I hope the White House understands this, that, instead of Navarro and look, I proudly walked in there because I was proud of what I did. And I'm going to have the media, Mike Davis, you know this. You're one of the guys that backed me, one of my lawyers. I was proud. I don't mind backing down the media. But they try to sit there and psychologically break you. So they got that image of you walking to court the entire time. I don't know how James Comey's in court right now. He just pleaded not guilty. Is that correct? On social media? They allowed Comey to do something they didn't allow anybody else to do. This is the problem. The problem is the system is rigged on these guys' side. Okay? It's got to stop. Is Comey going to be shackled? Is Comey going to be strip searched? Why? Comey's there for felonies. Navarro and Bannon, hey, look, I never whined about this at all. It is what it is. And when I went to prison, the audience knows that. It is what it is. But I'll be damned if we're going to sit here and allow Comey, who is a total scumbag, and you already see this deck is already, they've already stacked this deck right now. Why is Comey not coming in from outside like everybody has to? There's no way of taking you below a thing. And I don't want to hear security. You don't think there was higher security at taking out Steve Bannon or Peter Navarro, right, than James Comey? Mike Davis, how could we have allowed this to happen? Comey's in court right now. I got breaking.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's outrageous that you're not going to walk through the front door. You're getting special treatment. I agree, Bannon, who at the DOJ, what exactly is going on? I think this is going to lead to, we're foreshadowing here a potential acquittal because this whole system is just totally rigged. And you've got so many deep staters in there that worship James Comey. They think that there should be statues made of James Comey. They think that he is America's Boy Scout. There's people in the left and career intel oligarchs that want James Comey to be president. I mean, they think this guy is infallible. They really do. They have, I mean, in their minds, he is on the highest of pedestals. And that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem to overcome. As a matter of fact, we've got a report here coming up where the prosecutors of James Comey are actually being brought in from North Carolina. The speculation is the prosecutors in Virginia don't want to do this. So they're bringing in prosecutors from North Carolina to attempt to put James Comey in jail for lying to Congress. Like when he said this.
There should be no fuzz on this whatsoever. The Russians interfered in our election during the 2016 cycle. They did it with purpose. They did it with sophistication. They did it with overwhelming technical efforts. And it was an active measures campaign driven from the top of that government. There is no fuzz on that. It is a high confidence judgment of the entire intelligence community. And the members of this committee have seen the intelligence. It's not a close call. That happened. That's about as unfake as you can possibly get, and is very, very serious, which is why it's so refreshing to see a bipartisan focus on that, because this is about America, not about any particular party.
So that was a hostile act by the Russian government against this country.
Yes, sir.
In that
Literally framed a nuclear power. We framed a nuclear power as well as the sitting president of the United States. We now know, of course, thanks to Tulsi Gabbard. Now, this was made, this was in June of 2017. So I think this lie, the statute of limitations, have probably run out. But we need to actually go and nail down exactly, what are the statements, and we'll do that probably this afternoon with my co-host Rob Spencer on the Paul Harrell program. We'll kind of specifically get to where Comey messed up. But we now know that Obama literally faked an intel assessment. He ordered a fake intel assessment. They complied. The intel assessment normally takes a very long time compared to this fake intel assessment that was done in weeks. Instead, it should have taken months. But they were running out of time. So, we know that James Comey is involved in this massive conspiracy with all of the intel villains to essentially run a color revolution against the American people via Donald Trump, through Donald Trump. We don't want this guy in. He's got to play ball. He doesn't want to play ball. Intel agencies, we're gonna get him. We're gonna get him. We're gonna spy on him. We're gonna try to get blackmail on him. We're gonna try to get anything we can over him to control him. And then they didn't, and so then they made up. They literally used a fake dossier that was paid for by the Hillary Clinton campaign and then they submitted it to the FISA court as justification to spy on Trump or Carter Page or whoever else. And so, I mean, I voted for a lot. When I voted for Donald Trump this last time, I voted for a lot of things. Number one, I thought he was the most likely to keep the United States from getting involved in another war, specifically a forever war. I thought he was the most likely to get the Ukraine-Russia situation under control, but there's still too many people, I think, around his ear that, he wants to still back Ukraine in this proxy war that they can never win. But he is at least trying to get peace, and that's a good thing. I think he's going about it the wrong way, but he is trying. He's at least trying. Okay. But the other reason I voted for him is because I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, he survived the assassination. I mean, now he's going to get in there, and deep state criminals are going to go to jail. This is what I voted for. But we can't even do the little things right. We're not even doing the little things right. We can't even get James Comey to walk into the front, not even in handcuffs. Can't even get James Comey for his arraignment to walk into the front of the building. No, he gets special treatment and gets to come in through the side. It really is rat-like. And I say that because I think James Comey is very much is embarrassed and didn't want to do it. It would have been advantageous, and maybe this is why they gave him the special treatment, I don't know, but it would have been advantageous on Comey to be seen walking in the building. It really would have. It would have been even more advantageous for Comey's cause to be seen in handcuffs walking into the building. Because then they would have been able to use that, the left would have been able to use that to foment their own narrative about, oh, the government's being weaponized against Trump's political opponents, which is the craziest thing. Like, that is the most, I mean, you have to laugh about it, but it is infuriating that now they are the ones saying what we were saying was happening to Trump, Navarro, Bannon, and a very long list of people. Now they're saying it. And it's just, you know, with just totally tone deaf, like totally in a different reality. Even in some of these people, when you bring up, well, they weaponized it against Trump, they don't even understand your point. That's how I was talking to Rob the other day. Like, that's how clueless. Like, when we try to argue logically with these leftists, they are so darkened that they don't even. They're so darkened and convinced they have the moral high ground. They can't even understand the concept of hypocrisy or double standards. Many of them don't. Some of them do. So yeah, nothing. Is this the same clip? Let's listen.
The media's all out there today to told, hey, he's rolling up here. There's going to be a podium, and he slips in like the rat he is under the cover of
Steve
darkness. Bannon. Right? I'm sure they're going to say, Mike, oh, it's security concern. Hell with that. You don't think it was a bigger security concern for Steve Bannon in D.C.? Remember, I was in the heart of the district. And until Trump sent the troops, a very unsafe place, was it not, sir? You can see, I'm telling you, this is what we're trying to take apart. The deep state works in unison. Mike Davis has taught us this lesson over the years, and now you're seeing it here again, right, of how the deck is stacked because the way the apparatus works right below the surface, right below the surface, with the court, with the federal marshal, with the U.S. Marshals, with the with the people that actually run the day-to-day of the courts, with the FBI, because the FBI, as you know, they know everybody. This is one of the biggest courts they work at.
I mean, yeah, it does seem like the deck stacked against you. I mean, the only thing I can say, and this was maybe the best point that Pam Bondi made the other day in her talk, which, again, as I said yesterday, I really wasn't very impressed with Pam Bondi, like a lot of other conservatives were, or people on the right were. I especially wasn't pleased with her answers on Epstein. I just think that's they've just completely missed the plot and don't know how to read a room. But one of the things she did say was, hey, Comey was indicted by a grand jury in liberal Eastern Virginia. So maybe the evidence is so damning in black and white and they can get an actual jury in there that'll convict. I don't know. The convictions are the most important part. The arrests mean nothing when it's all said and done from a history standpoint. Here's more from Bannon. And the reason I'm focusing on Bannon today is because this is the guy who was literally politically persecuted and went to jail because he refused to cooperate with the J6 nonsense that had no ranking member and was not a real committee. January 6th, and you can go and they told you what it was in their own words. They literally hired, the January 6th committee hired a former ABC TV producer. Their plan after the Fedsurrection, which was designed to, frame MAGA to squash populism and keep Trump from ever running again, the whole J6 thing, this ABC producer, they wanted it to be like the O.J. Simpson trial. They wanted it to be week after week after week of appointment television. They were going to jam this narrative to the entire country. They wanted all of us to care. And of course, we didn't. Their narrative completely failed. They totally failed at convincing us that January 6th was worse than 9/11, at convincing the public that it was an insurrection where nobody brought guns. They totally failed at their narrative, but that's what it was. And they were asked, it was literally a programming. It was TV programming. They hired a TV producer to do it. And it totally failed. And somebody like Steve Bannon knew that. And somebody like Steve Bannon said, I'm not going to participate in this theater and go against Trump. And number one, because of executive privilege. But number two, it's not even a constitutional committee because they violated the rules of the House. The entire committee was illegitimate because they refused, to get the right partisan breakdown of it. So that's why I'm focusing on Bannon. I say all that to say that's why I'm focusing on Bannon here. The man actually went to jail for this.
Peter Navarro, for a misdemeanor, which 90...
Yeah, think about that. What they did to Peter Navarro, what they did to Bannon, these were misdemeanors. They've got Comey on 2 felonies.
9.99% of the time is handled civilly in these disputes between Congress. Okay, Peter Navarro didn't lie to Congress. Peter Navarro, because President Trump exerted executive privilege, and he was a senior White House aide, and the committee was not structured properly, had no ranking member and no counsel.
There you go. No counsel,
Peter
no
Navarro
ranking member.
and Stephen K. Bannon and Dan Scavino and Mark Meadows opted as our constitutional duty not to submit documentation and not to go testify as a matter of constitutional principle. These were misdemeanors. They were normally, like I said, 9.99% of the time in American history handled through civil litigation. Scavino and Mark Meadows were not charged, but they charged Peter Navarro and myself. And Peter Navarro, they treated like an animal to try to humiliate him and break him at Reagan Airport, very close to this courthouse, so not that far away from this federal courthouse. They basically chained him up in front of everybody, dragged him off a plane, chained up his fiancée, took him down a tarmac and tried to and put him in leg irons, then took him over to the federal courthouse, put him in the basement where the cells down there, one of the cells was for Hinckley, on a misdemeanor. Comey is about 2 felonies, right? He bald-faced lied to Congress. He obstructed justice. And these are just the appetizers.
Yeah, we're still wanting or hoping there's a superseding indictment for a giant criminal conspiracy throughout all of this. Admiral Robinson with a good tweet here and a good reminder. I think this is very interesting. We need to look at this. It does give us, if this report is accurate, it gives us a little bit of a glimpse into what's actually going on at this Justice Department that's supposed to try for a conviction of James Comey. Here's a Wall Street Journal reporter telling you that Todd Blanche and Pam Bondi tried to stop the indictment of disgraced FBI Chief Jim Comey by complaining directly to President Trump. Then they leaked their concerns to the Wall Street Journal. That means Trump hired all the wrong people again. So, Emerald Robinson here. She's pretty pessimistic about the people around Trump. I totally understand that. Totally get why somebody would think that. And so that's her conclusion based on listening to this clip of the Wall Street Journal's Sadie Gurman. Listen.
Remind us what happens at an arraignment and what the charges are that he's facing.
Well, normally this is a pretty perfunctory thing. A defendant walks into a courtroom and has read the charges, but in this case, from what I'm being told, the courthouse is already mobbed with reporters. There were lines to get in. And so basically he'll just make a very brief appearance and acknowledge that he understands what the government's bringing against him.
And does he get to make a plea at this point?
He could, yes, he could.
Are we expected to hear from him outside the courthouse? Is he expected to take questions from reporters?
Now that I don't know. Seems like the kind of thing he might want to do, but I'm just not sure.
When it comes to the charges against him, your story in the Wall Street Journal, Donald Trump overcame internal dissent to get his case against James Comey. Explain the background here.
Well, this story sort of talks about how these charges came over the objections of many career prosecutors and also President Trump's handpicked prosecutor who he actually ousted and installed his own personal lawyer in his place. And she was ultimately able to obtain the indictment, but she did this all by herself. And this story sort of talks about how, even advisors were telling him this is not a good case. The prosecutor has some doubts about it. Pam Bondi and her deputy Todd Blanche were telling him, that this might not work out the way you want it to. And he just didn't. He said, I don't care.
Lindsay Halligan, the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District.
So this Wall Street Journal. So I apologize. I thought Emerald was kind of editorializing or kind of no. Wall Street Journal girl specifically says that Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche were like, don't do it. Do not indict him. As the statute of limitations were about to run out as a matter of days. Don't do it. It's insane. That if that is true, and again, it is the Wall Street Journal, which I'm sorry, I know there's some people that think, well, the Wall Street Journal's on the... No, the Wall Street Journal is not good. It is a intelligence apparatus mouthpiece, and they have an agenda, and I do not trust the Wall Street Journal. But, generally speaking, maybe Gurman here is onto something. That Bondi and Todd Blanche were like, don't indict James Comey. That's what she's saying. Now, I know Matt Gaetz is out there saying, no, Todd Blanche is a stand-up guy. He's good. And so I've got some questions because I also trust Matt Gaetz.
Of Virginia, is she going to be in the courthouse today?
She very well could be. From what I understand, that she has brought in prosecutors from North Carolina. That's outside the district. That's unusual. And it's a signal that maybe people inside the office didn't want to be part of this case.
How big is the spotlight going to be on her?
This is crazy. I mean, this is crazy. I know most lawyers are Democrats, but the fact that you've got in the Trump administration, after everything he's been through, after everything the American people have been through, and then you put Bondi and Blanche there, and they can't staff the attorneys properly to get some people in there that are not progressive, liberal, deep staters. I mean, if that is true, and they've got prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia, and look, I know that's the swamp. I get it. But wouldn't that be the first thing you do? Wouldn't that be, as the Attorney General, if you had any sense about what you were actually facing, these lifer, deep state, liberal, because law schools, just what they do, law schools just pump out liberals that don't really care about the Constitution. All they care about is jurisprudence. And they don't know. And anyway, would that not be the first thing that you do, is fire a bunch of people, is go through and make sure you have U.S. attorneys and attorneys that know what's up, prosecutors that are going to do their job, prosecutors that agree with you ideologically, and yes, ideology matters. Obviously, we're in an ideological war right now. Literally, the first thing I would do, anybody that thought what happened to Trump was legitimate with the weaponization of government would be fired on day one. All of their emails would be reviewed. Everything about it would be reviewed to figure out who actually thought this was a good idea, and then you're gone. You're done. You're out. If that is true, that is incredible that we are 10 months into a Trump administration and we've got prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia that are working for the Trump administration that won't do their job, so they have to go and they have to get them from North Carolina. They have to get prosecutors from North Carolina to try Comey. Surely they're going to be fired. Surely they're fired right now. They're already fired for not doing their job. And this is on top of this report from the BBC from 4 days ago that there was an FBI agent allegedly suspended over the refusal to perp walk former director James Comey. An FBI agent has reportedly been suspended because they refused to participate in a perp walk of the Bureau's former director James Comey. The agent was suspended for insubordination, according to the BBC's news partner CBS, after the agent found the plan to be inappropriate. Mr. Comey was indicted in Virginia on 2 federal charges days after Donald Trump called on law enforcement to more aggressively investigate his political adversaries, including Comey. Now, in fairness to the DOJ, full disclosure, Kash Patel dismisses perp walk rumors, says no theater in Comey indictment. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said anonymous reports about a showy arrest of James Comey were just noise. So they're saying there's no there was nothing, never planned, everything like that, which again also brings us more questions. And it honestly brings us to this question. There's a reason that there's a reason we didn't get Matt Gaetz. All of us may have voted for Matt Gaetz as Attorney General, but there's a reason we didn't get Matt Gaetz. Because Matt Gaetz, I firmly believe, would not have put up with this nonsense, and he would have gone in there with the mission that these deep state intel oligarchs must go to jail. Things would have moved at lightning speed had Matt Gaetz been the Attorney General and gotten confirmed. And maybe he couldn't have gotten confirmed. I guess that's entirely possible. Here's Matt Gaetz on Timcast, Tim Pool's show, describing what it's like to be recruited by the Israel lobby, AIPAC, in Congress. And it's an extremely efficient story. Listen to this.
Initially, I resented the fact that there was no appreciation for nuance. Like if you asked any questions about any decision of the Israeli government in any place regarding settlements, regarding Gaza, whatever, you were like, you had deviated from the script. And I just, in any policy area, I had resentment over that. And then I saw the way the AIPAC worked, and that was weird for like a country lawyer like me. I remember my first AIPAC reception, and like your fundraiser tells you have to go, and your chief of staff tells you have to go, your committee chairman all tell you have to go, and you get there and you wear this name badge, and I remember there's a QR code on it. And what we were supposed to do was go talk to donors, and then if they liked you, they scanned your QR code to make a donation, like on the spot. And so can you just imagine how demoralizing that is to like be told that your job for the next several hours to go chat people up, hoping they would scan you like a can of tomato soup on the way out of the meeting.
I mean, it's literally purchasing.
Right. And so I saw that and I was like, wow, that is so freaking weird. And then, I was in Israel. I went multiple times, and I did not like the fact that I found someone in my room rooting around in my stuff that should not have been there at the King David Hotel when I came back to my room when no one was expecting me to be back in my room. And I just
presumably Israeli law enforcement.
Well, I don't know who it was. I just thought, like, this is weird. All of these things combined are odd, and then the policy outgrowth seems to be an obsession about the Middle East that has not served my generation well.
And this is exactly correct. When it comes to the forever wars, if you're talking about Gates' generation, this millennial generation, or the Gen X generation, we've essentially been involved in Middle East wars my entire life. And there are people that are saying enough dead Americans in the Middle East, no more, never again. But isn't that interesting? That is a fascinating, absolutely fascinating, the QR code. It's like you're being auctioned off. Oh, I like this one. I like you. Let me scan you so I can donate to your campaign. It looks like the one guy says, like, let's literally buying your politicians at a big mixer. And I will say this. I mean, the Israel lobby may be a lot of things, but they're efficient. They certainly are efficient. Using QR codes and the technology there. Pretty fascinating stuff. All right, so before we get to that, I do want to say one more thing. Right now, so I was having a conversation in the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Everybody was trying to figure out who did it. Is this real? Can we believe the government? And there's people with platforms way more powerful than me, way more viral than I am, that I've been listening to. I've been listening to the Turning Point USA crowd over at the Charlie Kirk show, listening to them, listening to Candace Owens. And so I told a friend that a couple of weeks ago, and they were throwing shade at Candace Owens. And I'll qualify it. I shouldn't have to because I think it's dumb. But yeah, I mean, that does not mean I agree with everything Candace Owens says or whatever. I mean, but I'm trying to get as much information as I can. Like, I want to know. There's a reason. There's plenty of anecdotal evidence out there that that women across America it is must-watch television right now in the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk to watch Candace Owens. Women are watching it like crazy because they don't believe the official story and they don't believe the official narrative. So, but my friend, threw some shade at Candace, and I said, whoa. Everything is way too raw right now. Like, everything is raw. Like, I didn't know Charlie Kirk, but I'm looking at all of the people who did know him well, and everybody is absolutely devastated. They're angry. They were going through the same emotions I was, but I mean, I was going through anger, grief, seeing a Christian martyr, everything else. But I didn't even know the guy. I never even met Charlie. Can you imagine if you actually knew him? I mean, it would be one of the most tragic things in your life. I said, so we're gonna pump the brakes. Like, you need to wait and see. This is what I said, and I think I even said it on the air in the afternoon show. It's like, I'm going to wait and see what happens, because I definitely know, remembering Candace Owens' rise to fame, I definitely know her and Charlie knew each other very well. And she's also, if the Brigitte Macron thing has proven anything, a bulldog when it comes to running down sources. She's also somebody that, now that her friend has been killed in front of the world, she's going to go on the warpath. And you may not agree with this or that or the other, but the bottom line is really exactly kind of goes right in line with what Matt Gaetz was talking about. In the wake, and this is the thing, maybe there's some people out there that are saying this, but I've seen everybody right now trying to editorialize that what Candace is getting at is that, she's saying, I have proof that the Mossad or Israel was involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. That's not exactly what she's saying, at least from what I've heard. She's actually, from the very beginning, thought it was very suspicious that before Charlie Kirk was even cold, you had Benjamin Netanyahu immediately going out to the press saying Charlie Kirk and Israel's relationship was rock solid. It was just such an odd thing to say in the wake of this. It was very much, why is Benjamin Netanyahu making this about him? And at least that's what it seemed like to me. And so Candace was like, wow, I actually think I have information that this is not true. And that's when you had these reports coming out about a meeting in the Cayman Islands. That's when you had these reports coming out about, Jewish donors to Turning Point USA saying, hey, we don't like you platforming Tucker Carlson and that sort of thing. And there's just been this back and forth on X. You guys have all seen it. That Candace is crazy, and this is absolutely nonsense. Well, a couple of days ago, she actually produced a group chat. You guys have seen it. All I'm saying is, we can detail the group chat. The group chat confirmed what Candace was saying. Yeah. He had 2 days before he was assassinated, he lost $2 million from a Jewish donor. It had to do with Tucker Carlson. And Charlie said, I've got to abandon the pro-Israel cause now because I'm being bullied, and I don't want to be bullied, but I'm out. I'm done. Now, this is all circumstantial evidence, and it's evidence that Turning Point USA Clavitt, sorry, his first name's escaped me, and I think I even botched the pronunciation of his last name, but the Turning Point USA guy confirmed the messages were real yesterday, and he even said he sent those messages originally to the FBI. Andrew is his name. In the wake of the assassination, just so they have it. So, this is why people just need to be. This is just my general critique. Don't be so quick to condemn people. This is a tapestry, okay? The news media, people on the right, conservatives, whatever that term means anymore, it is a tapestry of people trying to find the truth in a world where the government lies to us constantly, okay? And so the skepticism, not wanting to believe the official narrative may very well be true, but it is all healthy. The level of skepticism that we have right now about everything, whether it's Pam Bondi or whether it's, Todd Blanche or, we'll is the deep state going to pay for any of this, or whether the assassination of Charlie Kirk, who was going to be the president of the United States in 20 years, all of the skepticism is appropriate. If you know anything about if you know anything about JFK or any of that, but what we lived through the last 10 years, the skepticism, the distrust is healthy. And I know there's people out there that have varying degrees of it. And there's some that are like, why can't you just shut up and there's the spectrum is, I'm never going to believe anything that I'm told, regardless of what evidence is out there. And then there's the other side, which is, why don't you just shut up and believe the official narrative? And we're playing in the middle of those two goalposts. And I'm here for it because I want the truth. And so I'm going to keep listening to as many people as I can and making my own decisions, right? I'll give you another, example. Yesterday on Candace's show, she said that she had a dream where Charlie came to him and said he was betrayed. Well, I'm taking that one with a giant grain of salt, right? Because that doesn't actually prove anything because it can't be proven in a human court, right? Might be able to be proven in a heavenly court, but not a human one, okay? So there's that stuff as well, right? And everybody's going to find the what they think is the weak part of this person's argument or that person's argument and try to make them look foolish. And I get it. It's just part of it. And yet, I feel like we are just at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this whole thing. And I think there's a lot more stuff that's going to come out. The government that has Tyler Robinson in custody. And by the way, regardless of what the narrative is, my gut tells me Tyler Robinson is involved. He may or may not have pulled the trigger, but my gut tells me he's involved in some way, shape, or form. But the government really has not. We're now being told that they're not going to give us anything else, essentially. I mean, they gave us the text message thread, which didn't sound like a Generation Z even wrote it. And it was immediately a lot of people don't believe it. There are people that do believe it. Good for you, okay? But there are people that are skeptical about it. This is a generation of young people that have lived their entire lives understanding that we were totally lied to about the Kennedy assassination and that we need all of the documents, and we were promised the documents. We still don't have all the documents. This is people have come to the conclusion that our own government had something to do in the murder of a sitting president of the United States for a long time, for the last 70 years. People are sick of it, and they don't want another one of those things to happen here. So that's why you have this distrust. And it's not any of our fault that we distrust our government. It's their fault. They're the ones that have lied to us over and over and over again our entire lives. Whether lying to us about intelligence and weapons of destruction so dead Americans can be in the Middle East. Yes, it's that simple for me because I don't want war. I want peace. To a lot of other things, a lot of other big towering things. So I just think right now it's an incredible time to be alive in terms of the exchange of ideas and information. And it appears that Candace Owens has somebody in Turning Point USA feeding her information. So we go forward and we wait and see what is going to happen next. And I'm not going to be upset about more information. Give me more information. Let's get it out there. Let's analyze it. All right. And the last, let's see, this is kind of our second story of the day that I told you about. Let's see here. Where is that? Lower third. There it is. The HB1 visa scam hurts Americans. It sure does. And did you know that there was a guy that noticed this in Texas? How many Indians have taken over his neighborhood? And his church put him under discipline and eventually kicked him out of his church. Center for Baptist Leadership reporting on a Blaze.com article, a conservative Christian family man and business owner who goes by the name of Daniel Keene was disciplined out of Matt Boswell's Texas Southern Baptist Church, Trails Church, simply for expressing his political opinions opposing mass Indian immigration and the H-1B visa scam. The Blaze has the story, and it is insane. Headline, Church joins persecution of Texas business owner who criticized H-1B visas, by Sebastian Pastrito. After facing threats and extortion, Daniel Keene's gym and church have apparently turned on him as well. Daniel Keene did not expect a post on X to derail his life. The small business owner posted a video of an Indian block party taking over an entire street of his North Texas suburb and expressed his frustration at the rapid demographic and cultural changes sweeping through large swaths of the greater Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex. Quote, "We have to cancel the H-1Bs. I want my kids to grow up in America, not India," he wrote in the since-deleted post. He deleted the post because his church asked him to, but we have the post because Red Wave Press captured it. So, again, all he wrote was, "I want my kids to grow up in America, not India," and then he posted this video. You come home to that and you think to yourself, okay, did we lose a war? Like what's going on? Did America lose a war? Did we get conquered? It certainly feels like it. I mean, you've got 90-foot tall statues of monkey gods in Texas now. Golden monkey gods, little g, in Texas. So yeah, this is a perfectly rational thought to have. I want my kids to grow up in America. I don't want them to grow up in India. But because Daniel Keene is white, the elders at his woke Southern Baptist church decided to put him under an inquisition. The post went viral on X and all hell broke loose. As previously reported by The Blaze News, and the Blaze News, Keene and his family were subjected to doxing and threats. His business was review bombed, and someone claiming to have access to millions of Indian American contacts apparently tried to extort him for $20,000. Keene's business, Boundaries Coffee, continues to weather the storm, and Google has shut down reviews for the business, putting a stop to the lies, threats, and insults that had flooded in. The backlash was not contained to Keene's professional life. In the midst of dealing with the attacks on his business, the owner of his gym decided to weigh in on the issue by revoking his membership. Keene received a text from Ken Williams, the owner of CrossFit Prosper, telling him, "We feel your public stance doesn't align with our core values of inclusivity and respect. We'll be ending your membership effective immediately," according to a screenshot reviewed by The Blaze. The text took Keene by surprise, since Williams did not raise the issue when he visited the gym. He didn't say anything to me in person, not even a peep of conflict. In canceling the membership, Williams explained that a large part of our community is Indian, and inclusivity is central to who we are. We can't overlook how this impacts our members and staff and the culture we work hard to protect. The gym did not respond to the Blaze News for comments. But then things continued to get worse for Keene. Keene's church decided to interrogate him on his immigration stance. The elders at the Trails Church called him about his initial post, telling him to repent, and that the post was uncharitable. Keene, who deleted the post shortly after it went viral due to the stress it was causing his family, did not disavow his position on immigration and the H-1B visa in particular. Now, we did an entire show with Jacob Holloway, Rob Spencer, and myself couple of months ago, I don't know how long ago, about the H-1B visa scam and actually how immoral it is. We exposed the dowry problem, how once these immigrants get over here, they're basically demanding these large dowries from families in India to pay them so that their daughters, they're buying these arranged marriages with large dowries using their legal status here to get wives. It's sick, okay? And it's not who we are at all. Aside from the fact that once you get the HB1 visa, you're over here, you can work multiple jobs because there's loopholes to do it. And fundamentally, This is taking jobs away from Americans that could do those jobs at lower. And then there's a whole cartel of these companies that are the middlemen that are making money. They're paying the Indians a little less. Companies still paying the same amount, but these big farm companies or whatever headhunters are making out like bandits. So the whole thing is a scam. And so not only are you taking jobs away from Americans, it's being exploited, and now there's entire communities of people that are living as Indians, not as Americans, not as somebody that's melting in the melting pot, whatever that is. They are totally they're totally transitioning. They're totally changing the makeup of our country, demographically speaking, but and culturally speaking. We have different cultures, completely different cultures. And you know what? When you do that, when you put large amounts of people coming over here that are not going to even adapt or try to adapt to our culture at all, you're going to have huge problems, because homogenous societies have the greatest chance of getting along and actually building things together. Whoever thought it was a good idea, I tell you what, the people that thought this was a good idea are the people who want dysfunction and they want more power, because the more homogenous a society is, the quicker we can actually get change in government. But if we're little groups divided, it only concentrates the power of those in power even more. So the whole thing is not only a scam, it's also a deliberate plan to destroy the country. Oh, they'll tell you it's about altruism and we don't want to be racist and we want to multicultural. They'll tell you it's all those things. It's literally deliberately to destroy the country. So back to this guy going to Trail's church. It got worse. He said that's when problems with the church really escalated. Keene and his wife, who was 8 months pregnant, were called in for a meeting with all the elders and staff who could be there. They weren't just concerned about one post. They hammered him for hours. The elders had apparently gone through the last 3 years of Keene's X account looking for problematic posts. Keene said they brought up 2 posts that they found concerning. Keene described the meeting as confusing. The goalposts got shifted significantly. Keene claimed he was unable to get a straight answer from the elders on the actual substance of the offense. Quote, on one hand, they're saying that the issue is not the position itself, it's how I expressed it. But then we've had 3 hours of phone calls, and they're just hammering me on the position itself, the position of, we got to end the H-1B visa scam. I want my kids to grow up in America, not India. Keene requested that the elders, listen to this, this was very smart of Keene. Keene requested that the elders put his offenses in writing to eliminate uncertainty, but they refused. They refused to specifically name what his offenses were and tell me where I sinned. Tell me specifically how saying this is a sin, and they could not do it. I know a little something about being accused without specifics, specifically in a church context, by the way. So I feel for Keene in this instance. So he offered to post clarifying messages on X and talk to anyone at the church who had found his posts offensive. The elders apparently were not satisfied with an offer to clarify things. According to Keene, they wanted him to apologize for his original post showing that the Indian Bloc Party on his street and abandon his position on Indian immigration. While he respected their right to disagree with him, Keene told the Blaze News he did not think apologizing for the post was appropriate. As far as the content, I stand behind it. That's the policy position I stand behind. He doesn't want H-1B visas. When asked how serious this offense was, the elders told Keene that he was on the path of discipline, meaning he would be removed from membership if he continued on his present course. Keene described the removal process as a very serious step in a Baptist church. They're basically saying we don't think you're a Christian anymore because you haven't repented of a sin. In this case, a sin against not wanting your kids to grow up in India. Keene left the meeting still confused. Shortly after, a friend sent him an episode of the King's Hall podcast discussing immigration and H-1B visas. Keene found the episode insightful and posted a clip of it along with the following questions. What would get you in more trouble at your church? Significant doctrinal error on the Trinity, or opposing immigration to the harm of your neighbor? Keene said he knew the post would upset the church elders. He did try to reach out privately at first just to say, hey, hear me out on this. After he posted the clip, the elders asked him to come in with his wife, and then that's basically said, hey, you got to leave the church. So this was the post from the King's Hall podcast that sent his church over the edge. Listen.
Happening. But what happens if you convert that very particular kind of love in word and deed to a general kind of love for everybody? Well, no longer can you meet the needs of actually anybody in particular. You're just talking about meeting the needs of everyone. So even on a political level in America, our elites were convinced and our institutions were captured to this idea that it was actually a sin to love America in particular and seek her good in particular. And that's what we see in something like the H-1B program. Pat Buchanan, again, got this back all the way back in 2002. He said that the H-1B program, it's replacing jobs of college graduates in America, and it's a failure to put America first.
Which, by the way, today, if you say, even those themes, like some of the MAGA themes, but America first, people be, oh, you're racist.
Oh, yeah. Think about what would get you in more trouble in the average church. To say something that people would conclude as, in some way racist, or it's like something like that, or to deny the Trinity.
Right.
Which would get you in more trouble in the average evangelical church?
Racism.
Not like you could get the Trinity wrong, and people would be like, they're in process. But if someone walked in and they were like, look, I'm sick of seeing Indian immigrants in my neighborhood. They're destroying this country and taking our jobs. They'd be like, my brother, we need to have you in several struggle sessions immediately with the elders and their wives.
Wow, so they literally, that's why it resonated with Daniel Keene, because he said, that's exactly what happened to me. That's exactly what happened to me. We're not talking about serious doctrinal error in the church or orthodoxy or anything. I'm just expressing a political opinion that you think is sinful, but it's not sinful. Pretty crazy, right? Pray for Daniel Keene to find a church home that isn't woke and isn't. It's funny. There's a lot of average evangelical churches that are wielding a political philosophy that is now expired, which is this third wayism, and they don't even realize it yet. It's spoiled milk at this point, and they don't realize it, and maybe they'll realize it 10 years from now. I don't know, but they always kind of keep, and that's because in so many evangelical churches, in order to reach the young people, they feel like they have to deviate from what the Bible teaches, or they feel they've got to spice it up a little bit, or they feel they've got to, I don't know. It's like it needs more. We got to do a little more. And so that means that they reinvent themselves every 10 years based on what the culture is doing. And right now, there's a lot of people that aren't hungry for that. They're actually just hungry for what the church does best, which is worship God according to the Scripture. And because they're getting all the culture stuff, they want something pure. They don't want this. And they're coming for that because the world is so wicked and evil. And they're realizing it. Wow, this is not concealed evil. This is just open rebellion against God and his commandments, and it's making me sick. It's something inside me is like, this is wrong, and something inside you is actually drawing, or actually something outside of you is drawing you to God, to worship the one thing, the one person who can actually not only forgive you of your sins, but also fulfill the hole in your heart. And that is an encouraging thought. Wow, we've kind of ended on that note 2 shows in a row. We've ended on Jesus Christ, not by plan, but by his providence. That's all the time that I have for this edition. God bless everybody out there. I really appreciate you watching. Don't forget to go to redvivehealth.org/Paul if you want 35% off of clinical strength red light panels, or you just call them 844-RED-VIVE. Mention my name, Paul. I'm going to be back here in 3 hours talking with my co-host, Rob Spencer, for the Paul Harrell program. We'll be broadcasting across all of our platforms, including Ex-America News. Really do appreciate you guys, and we'll see you here in a little while.
The very foundation of the Christian faith is based